All right, everybody, welcome back to What's the 411. This is part two of this great show. I just love these special guests. And today we have another very special guest, Miss Yanique Russell. I hope I pronounced that properly, Yanique Russell.
That's correct.
All right. And I will just allow her to introduce herself, let us know all of the great things she's doing in the community. So go on ahead.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. Really appreciate the invitation coming across. I'm Yanique Russell, and I'm a lawyer here in Ontario, Canada. I'm based in Toronto. I practice immigration primarily, but I also dabble in wills and estates and corporate law. Besides being an attorney, I'm also an entrepreneur. I own and operate a college recruitment company that has now recently ventured into recruiting temporary foreign workers from the Caribbean and Latin America. And I also lecture. I teach wills and estates, corporate law, and debtor creditor law. Besides all of those, I'm a mom of two, and I'm also married to a wonderful husband. That's a bit about me.
There's a bit, but there's a lot in that little bit, right? So you are doing a lot. That's great. I love to hear it. So talk to us about how you got into the legal fields.
Yeah, so my journey into law, I love to share it. It's quite the non-linear route. I never wanted to be an attorney. As a matter of fact, my first degree is a double major in environmental science. I did a ZUBOC major. I loved the sciences. I wanted to be a biologist as a little girl, and then that changed from being a biologist to an epidemiologist. Anyhow, after completing my degree, I was in Jamaica. I'm from Jamaica, by the way. You must have figured by now. And it was really the degree wasn't marketable there. It wasn't possible for me to get an opportunity in the science field. And I began teaching. But I remember it was early in 2011 when my husband said, say the ABC backwards. And apparently I was supposed to repeat what he said verbatim, like just say for him, say ABC backwards. And I said from Z to A. And he just paused. He was like, you're wasting that brain. You need to do law. I don't know why he said law. I don't know why he never said medicine. But when he said law, I was like, okay, fine. I don't back down from a challenge. Fine. I should go and do law. I'll go and do law. I submitted an application to the University of London. I was accepted. And, the rest is history, as they say. I taught myself law, by the way. They sent all the textbooks you had to read, and then you would sit your exams once yearly, every May. There were no assignments. There were no lectures. You pretty much read and then showed up for exams. So that's my journey into law.
That is amazing. Wow, you got to big up yourself and shout out to your husband. Okay.
I know, right?
Like he could see into the future. Holy.
Vision, isn't it so important to align yourself with people who have vision? Yeah.
That is beautiful, though. That's a cool story. So hold on. Can you say the alphabet backwards still? Can you still do it? Do it for us. No?
I think I can. I'm fried tonight. I was just sharing, I taught from 10 to 5 today, but I'm pretty sure I still can. But you know what? That was before 2 children. You got kids, so you know what happened.
It's a baby brain. I was literally just talking about this the other day, and somebody was asking me about baby brain, and I'm like, it's actually a fact. As soon as you have children, it's like you lose part of your mind. It goes to the child. I don't know where it goes. But sometimes it kind of comes back, but it's never the same. It's never the same. Oh my goodness. So you talked to us about the law that you primarily focus on. How did you decide to narrow it down to like wills, corporate, and what else did you say? Immigration, yes.
Immigration is my passion because I'm an immigrant. And while I attended Osgood, although I was a permanent resident, I remember through interacting with my colleagues, they had a lot of cares, concerns. A lot of them were temporary residents. They were here on study permits. They kept thinking about, okay, is my PR application going to be approved? How will I get a job? It was just one concern after the other. And watching that journey really caused, it stirred something in me. One, I wanted to be able to make the transition a bit more seamless for individuals who wanted to, you know, pursue their goals. And that's when I launched my college recruitment company, which is College Pass Recruitment. I wanted it to be a one-stop shop where they could depend on that company to get information on, okay, something as simple as where do I get the bus? Where do I get my social insurance number? It may seem as such a very minor thing for us because we're accustomed to the society where we've already, become established here. But for the new person, it could be such a mammoth task. And that's how College Pass was born. And with that recruitment company, I thought, okay, I need to, one, be that link for my people back in Jamaica who needed to have a safe individual that they could trust. You hear the accent, you're going to think, yeah, this person is from my country, then at least maybe someone knows them. I can rely on what they're saying as opposed to someone who could scam me. You may hear of a lot of immigration scams. And that's why I went into immigration law, the practice, and the corollary businesses that I run, that really complement my immigration practice. Wills and estates was just a passion of mine. It comes very naturally and quite love it. But really, immigration is where it's at for me.
Awesome. So being internationally trained, like you just mentioned, how you just got books and then you went to sit down to take a test. Talk to us about that process and talk to us about the different experience you have compared to somebody that might be sitting in class and taking those lectures.
Exactly. So as an internationally trained lawyer who is taking those courses via distance learning as it is, it's quite, especially if you had never pursued any introductory law courses. Remember, I was making that transition from science, right? I'd never taken like history at the CXC level or CAPE law, right? So it was quite, although I have an analytical mind, so criminal law for me, I loved it. I really sucked it up quickly. But something as dense as or as new as tort, I had to read that maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times to be able to pull it apart. Also, because you're not in a classroom where there's a lecturer who is able to take these dense materials, break it down for you to be able to easily digest it and understand it and maybe sit an exam or a test, and have someone assess the work you've done so you can then be able to, okay, see your shortcomings, get an opportunity to improve. That made it a lot more challenging, I can assume, because it was, because I did attend law school here at Osgood, which was, I'm telling you, like, Osgood is top notch in terms of the lineup of professors, the course outlines, the actual makeup of the programs. It's really a cut above the rest, if I may say. But that, although it was challenging, I think it also allowed me to run smooth sailing in the Osgood programs because I was now accustomed to jumping into the work myself. And, I wasn't scared of the work being a lot. And yeah, so you know how they say you really can't bash challenges or hurdles or obstacles. They're truly there to smooth you, to, bring out the best in you. That's so true.
And you definitely want to big up yourself on that one because that could not have been easy just receiving these. I know those law books, those huge law books, you
Oh,
know what
yeah.
I mean? You need to whip out your legal dictionaries and everything, going through so much. And you did it. You did it. You took up that challenge. And then you came here and then you went to Osgood Hall and you thrived there. So that's a big accomplishment. Big accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you. I must say, though, I had help. So I had two friends who were lawyers, and they never got tired of me. And I remember I never could get promissory estoppel. And I kept asking my friend who was an attorney at the time, Misha, she still is, she's practicing in St. Vincent. And I remember having to bug Rhonda, they were already seasoned lawyers. And it's always these Latin terms that are so new to you. So yeah, it's good to stand sometimes, appreciate the work that you've done, but always, I've got to say, big ups, lots of love to my community that supported me along the way. Yeah.
Share some of the other strengths that you definitely acquired along the way, maybe that you had and you didn't realize that you had, and they kind of came out as you were doing this work.
Yeah, so I'm from, and I like to call myself the little girl from Tucker in our nice Jamaican dialect. Um, Perseverance. I never knew how tough I was. I came to Osgood in 2019, and when I landed in Toronto, I was 5 months pregnant. So we landed October. So when I started Osgood in January 2019, I was 7 months pregnant. And I remember I had to submit my assignments, and this was while I was in labor. So I was on the hospital bed in labor and I had to submit my assignments, right? And um, 2 weeks after giving birth, I was back in class, right? And it was during that class that I noticed I was unable to breathe and I was rushed to the ER. And that diagnosis was a pulmonary embolism. So there was a blood clot in my lung. Yeah. And I did not know that, as a result of those 22 hours in labor, as a result of not moving around, I had developed a blood clot. And all through that, I never missed one assignment. I was never late. I never asked for extensions, right? I was extremely sick after giving birth, but I had decided that I came to Canada to make to get a better life, not just for me, but also for my 5-year-old. She was 5 at the time, she's now 9. And that was a promise to myself. And for me, come hell or high water, right? I was going to clear that. So that was one of the skills that I guess it was dormant. I never knew that I had so much tenacity. Other skills that came out while I went to Osgood, I always knew that I liked to meet people. I'm quite personable. I like networking. But for me, attending Osgood really gave me an opportunity to flex that muscle and to build my network. And for me, that was one of my strongest um, I don't want to say feature, but it sort of is a feature. It's one of those things that really has helped not just my career, but my businesses. The fact that I was able to leverage my personable skills, the fact that I was able to leverage marketing as it became, yeah, I was able to push the brand Yanique Russell, to push the brand College Pass, to recruitment, me, what I do, which is to take people to Canada and to make that journey so seamless, which is to provide that end-to-end service. So coming to law school, especially attending Osgood, really has been a wonderful journey for me. And I want to always throw the rope back to pay it forward. And that's why I do a lot of work for internationally trained lawyers. I do a lot of work in that space to ensure that I am helping them if they want me to hold their hands. And this is not at a cost, by the way. This is me saying, okay, I was helped and I want to help you.
Oh, that's definitely huge. Being able to pay it forward, just knowing where you were, recognizing certain things that needed to be done to help anybody else, and then actually helping is
Mhm.
is actually huge, you know? That's awesome. So talk to us about some of the highs and lows of the legal system, maybe some differences that you see both from here in Canada and from Jamaica.
So I'll say the major difference would be the fact that the laws here have teeth, as we would say. They're not just statutes, there are associated penalties for individuals who, contravene the laws, who go against them, who decide that they want to break it. It's not that there aren't any penalties for the laws in Jamaica, but the laws are not enforced as stringently, as strictly as they should be and as they are here in Canada. I think that's the major difference in my estimation. But besides that, and if there is any internationally trained lawyer who has practiced in Jamaica and they're coming to Canada to relicense, I believe having acquired a Canadian legal education will strengthen, improve greatly their practice if they intend on maintaining that practice back home tremendously, because the level of not just legal drafting here, if you look at the actual statutes, but for me, the judges are brilliant. If you take up a piece of case law and you scour the analysis, simply brilliant. And I studied law, UK law, for my LLB. I never did Jamaican law, so I'm not quite familiar with their cases, but I have heard from several individuals who I've studied with who were once practicing in Jamaica and in other jurisdictions across the Caribbean and even in Latin America, that they'll tell you that the laws here are truly top-notch. And there are several countries that really look to Canada when they are drafting their own legislation.
Oh, okay. All right, Osgood Hall. How easy is that transition though? Let's say you're studying abroad and you want to come here and practice law. How easy is that transition to make?
So it is fairly easy in terms of the fact that the steps are outlined. It's like step by step by step. You've just got to move along the journey. If you're not aware of what you should do, it may seem quite overwhelming, quite daunting, right? You first will need to have your credentials assessed. So that LLB, that law degree that you would have garnered from wherever else you would have studied in the world, you've got to get it assessed by the National Committee of Accreditation, the NCA, which is pretty much a committee from the Federation of Law Societies across Canada. They will look at your law degree, look at the courses that you've studied, and assess whether or not your introduction to common law is sufficient if you were ever introduced to the common law. And for my viewers, the common law is the law, the UK law, law coming from the Commonwealth. If you are coming from a civil law jurisdiction, so like most of the European countries, Spain, France, most of Latin America, then because you were never introduced to the common law, you will be asked to take some courses. There are 6 core courses. There used to be 5 when I did it. So you'd have to do foundations of Canadian law. You've got to do Canadian criminal law, Canadian administrative law, professional responsibility, and Canadian constitutional law. The 6th now is legal research and writing, which I think that was a brilliant addition to the cohort of courses. So those are the core 6. And an individual who is coming from like a Jamaica, Barbados, who has some, common law knowledge may be assigned those core 6, and that would be it. But if you're coming from like a civil jurisdiction, or if you had to study via distance learning like I did, you are likely to get 2 or 3 additional courses tacked on to those. Once you've cleared those courses, right, and fulfill any additional requirements. So for me, I had a mandatory 2 years in-person law school attendance in addition to those courses. For the Canadian jurisdiction, for them, you've got to attend law school in person. And that's why I went to Osgood for 2 years. I did 2 masters with them. Once you've cleared those, you will get your certificate of qualification, which is their way of saying you are now fully processed, you've fully cleared everything that the Canadian law system has to offer. It's quite comparable to the JD, the Juris Doctor that you get at the law schools here. And then you select which law society you wish to write a bar exam for. And that it sounds very easy now that you can outline the step. But for someone who's totally new to the process, as I once was, it will be quite overwhelming.
Sure. And so is that what like your entrepreneurship venture helps to assist people with that process?
Exactly that. So Osgood Hall Law School is one of the schools that College Pass recruits for. As a matter of fact, we are exclusive with them for the Latin America and Caribbean region, with the exception of Mexico. So once you're coming from any of those countries, anything in the Caribbean and Latin America, we can assist you with your application preparation and submission at absolutely no cost to you, right? That's what we do. We will walk you through, we'll coach you. So we call it admissions coaching. We'll walk you through the process. We will look at your CV because it's so important that we highlight that the resume here that you present for, let's say, a law clerk or a legal assistant position, it's totally different from what an individual would be accustomed to back in their home country. And there are other things that we would need to, assess for you or review for you, like your writing piece. It's mandatory that you submit a piece of writing to Osgood when you are sending off that application. By the way, an individual is surely to challenge the NCA exams on their own. But here is why I don't recommend it. You've got to clear that exam with the NCA at 50% at least, and it's a pass or a fail. At Osgood, you'd have to pass the course, and to pass a course at Osgood, you've got to attain a 70%. But I tell you, yeah, it's 70. But I'll tell you, getting that B at Osgood, it's quite easier than to get that 50% with the NCA because you're challenging the exam on your own. There's no lecturer, there are no colleagues. Even if you form a study group, it's pretty much a situation of blind leading blind, right? So I strongly recommend the Osgood Canadian Common Law. It's a one-year LLM. By the time you begin it, it's done, right? You go ahead, pursue your NCA courses, and in a year, you're ready to write or study, prepare for your bar exams.
Oh, okay. Well, it's great that you have this program that helps the individuals, giving them the rundown of exactly what's required, also giving them tips, on how they can proceed, because it definitely can be overwhelming coming into another country to try to pursue this legal career. So let's say there's somebody here and, like myself, and I decide that I want to become a lawyer. What is some advice that you would give?
I would say to you, do it first thing. Just do it. But one of the first things you need to do is to do some research as to whether or not you'd like to pursue the Canadian JD, meaning you're attending law school here in Canada, or you'd like to look at the distance education program with the University of London, right? They do have a graduate stream that allows you to complete the LLB in 2 years as opposed to 3 years. Yes, so they will take into consideration the fact that you are a mature student, for example. You have some work experience, you have a previous qualification. And remember, mine was in science. So it really doesn't matter what your first degree is, right? After you've made that assessment and see what works for your particular situation, you may be a parent. It may be that you have other responsibilities like a job or a company to run. And the UOL LLB is quite flexible. If you are able to attend law school in person to do the JD, then by all means, because as I said, it's quite an easier journey to attend the classes, to hear from lecturers, to have them, break apart this very new material for you, right? After you've done that, then you need to make that decision as to whether or not you would like to practice in Ontario, Alberta, Manitoba. You need to select the province that you'd like to practice. I do hear a lot of individuals saying they're looking to Alberta, they're looking to Manitoba because the competition, I think the last count for lawyers in Ontario, it was heading up to 20,000. But Ontario is huge, right? And there are millions of people here. And Canada as a whole, as a jurisdiction, is quite litigious. So the need for lawyers will always be there, as far as I'm concerned. In my estimation, like there's never going to be a need for, not a need for an attorney. But make that decision. And if you want to be licensed in all three, by all means, go for it. Like never dim yourself down, shrink yourself to fit into a box. Think that it's too much for you. No. The world is your oyster. Think about what you need to do and how you need to get there. One major piece of advice. If you want to take a road that you've never trod, you've got to reach out to someone who has already walked that road. So they can clearly describe for you where the potholes are, where the pitfalls, where the hurdles. How do I clear those hurdles? Ensure that you are networking, right? Form strong bonds. Get mentorship, and mentorship is two ways. As much as you are going to be a mentee, you too can offer someone to something to a mentor, to someone who is mentoring you, right? You need to, as best as you possibly can, attend events that are being scheduled by maybe your local bar association. So I know, like for Toronto, the TLA has a lot of student sessions, both virtually and in person. Attend the in-person sessions. Go and meet other law students because they will eventually be your colleagues, right? And opposing counsel. And it's good to know opposing counsel. Go and meet seasoned lawyers. Ask them for tips. Ask how they cleared their bar exams or prepared for their bar exams. There are several training sessions that are being put on by the Canadian Bar Association and the Ontario Bar Association. And I can imagine that British Columbia and the other provinces too will have their own, local events and seminars. Get out there after you've done the fleshing out and you're fully clear on what you need to do. You're quite clear, you understand. Start taking those steps. And it's a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Enjoy the journey.
Awesome. Yes, great tips. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
yeah. So talk to us about your why. Why are you doing this?
My why are surely my two little ones. When I began, it was only one. I had one daughter, but she is such a sponge. I remember, growing up, I used to hear my mother say, I knew you would always like to work because when you were two, you used to put a bag over your shoulder and you would say, I'm going off to work. But my little kids, when they're playing, they never say they're going to work. It's always, I'm going to my office. It's always, okay, start up the laptop. It's time to start work. So they are watching. And because I've recognized that they are watching, it means I can't stop. Even on the days that I really feel drained, it's not always hunky-dory, it's not always good. Some days I do feel like stopping, but I can't because I've got two little ones who are looking on, and they're two girls. So I definitely have got to do it for them. Those are my way.
Awesome. And then, so what keeps you motivated and inspired to continuously going? I mean, your children are a big part of that motivation and inspiration, but what else keeps you going?
What keeps me going is the fact that I'm that little girl from Tucker, the little one who is from a one-bedroom from what you would call the ghetto, that just only had a dream. I can't stop because I can't disappoint that little girl from Tucker who is inside. You understand? I have already persevered and I've got to this point. And for me, if I could overcome, all of those just detriment for me, it's just crazy. Like my 2019, besides the blood clot, I was hemorrhaging because I was on blood thinners, and the blood thinners, after having baby, it was just a lot. And for me, if I could overcome that, why should I give up now? Like, why? There's nothing that's going to sway me or to thwart me or to take me off my path, right? And that's why I've got to keep going. That's why I keep striving. And I know too that I've got to pass the road back. I had a community. I do have a community of support, and I had a lot of people who pushed me along, who contributed in some way or the other. But there is another little girl from some other rural community, from some other, inner city community that may only have a dream, may only have some goal, but they will need to see that it can be done. They're thinking, they're wondering, can I do it? But we all know representation matters, right? They've got to be able to see it, to catch that vision, to be able to get that aha moment, like, yeah, it can be done. So I've got to keep striving for those little girls.
Yes, I love that. It's very important to make sure that we are recognizing that the children are always watching. Like you said, they are little sponges, they're big sponges. Sometimes when you think they're not paying attention, that's when they're paying the most attention, and it comes out in every little way. So it is important to make sure that we are the example, not only that you wanted to see when you were young, but that is possible. So shout out to you, Yanique, for being that example, being that representation that is so necessary for those little girls today, very big, very big. So how can we keep in touch with you? If we wanted to, get in touch with you, we need a will done, we need some immigration help. Like, how do we get in touch with you?
And we need to get our wills done. And by we, I mean our community. It's so taboo. The minute you mention wills, to people in our community, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. No, estate planning is so much more than that. But if you want to get in touch with me, you could call me 416-800-9891. You can email me at info@YRussellLPC. So that's YRUSSELLL, 3 L's, PC.com. Email me, call me. You can visit my website, www.YRussellLPC.com. There is a web form that you can complete to ask whatever questions you may have. That's how you connect with me. But I'm sure if any of your viewers who may watch the delayed broadcast of this video, it's on YouTube, right? Yeah. If they want to get through to me, if they reach out to you, for sure, you could make the connection. So really grateful for being here to share about my journey. And I will be very happy to assist any internationally trained lawyer or any foreign student, for that matter, who is looking to make that move to Canada.
Awesome. And it was a pleasure having you speak with us today. I mean, you mentioned perseverance, tenacity, and just pushing through, like all of the different struggles and strategies that you had to adapt to is phenomenal. So you got to definitely big up yourself. You went through those highs and lows, and you're here to show us that anything that we put our mind to is definitely possible. So I
With
love
God, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was truly a pleasure being here. Very grateful for opportunities such as this to be able to put it out there that really, if you have a goal, a dream, just do it. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm. So is there like a quote that you would like to leave us with so that we may always remember this conversation anytime we kind of reflect on it?
I do. I love this one by Harriet Tubman. I love that it's February 27. We're kind of winding up on Black History Month. But they say Harriet Tubman said when she went back south to get her people, she said, if you hear the dogs, keep going. If you hear the men with the guns, keep going. Whatever you do, just keep going. And that's what I want to leave with everyone who is watching tonight. Whatever distractions that may come when you're on your journey, and you will have distractions, they will come. Just keep going.
I love that. Yes. And tomorrow is the ending of Black History Month, wrapping it up. Although, you know, we want to make sure that we are ensuring we celebrate it all the time. That is a perfect way to leave us tonight. So thank you again, Yanique. I appreciate you, and we'll definitely keep in touch for sure.
For sure, for sure. Thank you so much. All the very best. Take care.
Same to you. Take care. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. That was Miss Yanique Russell, all the way from Jamaica, coming to Canada, making a huge, 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 huge impact on not only our Canadian legal system, but she's pulling the rope back, as she said, helping people along. And then, of course, what does she leave us with? That beautiful quote from, you know, to ending off Black History Month. If you hear the dogs, men with guns, you gotta just keep plugging through, keep going, and don't bash a challenge. She also said that throughout our conversation today. So make sure that you guys are tapping in. Check out Harriet Tubman. She's got a whole bunch of different quotes. And you definitely want to tap into Miss Yanique Russell. If you guys are looking for any assistance at all, if you know somebody that's coming from abroad and they may need some assistance, you definitely want to tap in with her, okay? And it's YRUSSELLLPC.com. You can find her on Instagram, on her website. Just check her out, tap in, send an email to info, and she'll definitely get back to you. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I'll see you the same time next week. Yeah, it's going to be March next week already. It's like